Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm good, guys. Now, is this the new spot or just this week?
This probably, if you're all right doing 1:30, we can do 1:30.
You go with it?
Or we can keep it at 12:30. It's just...
It's fine, either way.
All right, yeah, we did expand to 3 hours. You do 3 hours. That third hour, when you started your show, did you start 2 or did you go right to 3?
Well, it depends. But when I left Sirius after all those years, Sirius XM, I did 2. And then the audience said, we don't want you. You need to do 3. So after about a year, I did 3. There's no difference in 2 and 3. There's a big difference in 3 and 4.
Yeah.
But that fourth hour, guys, at one point, I did local radio. Well, I did my Sirius show in the mornings. And then I come back and do afternoon radio, local, for 3 hours, 6 hours. And that is just so stupid, so ridiculously tiresome. But, yeah, 3 hours is the right number.
Well, it feels good for us. It's been fun for the last week and a half, and we appreciate you moving the spot that you've done here with us. We talked earlier today about South Carolina football. That's the team Arkansas opens up league play against. You know, they open up against Cincinnati, so we're not looking ahead necessarily. But we are previewing every team in the SEC. And our guest Will Gunter pointed out, you know, that Arkansas in the second year under Sam Pittman really did establish what they want their team to be about. Line of scrimmage, toughness, strength, running the football first and foremost. His answer as to what Shane Beamer instilled in South Carolina was a surprise answer. Now, you know the Beamer family very well. He said that Shane Beamer basically changed the attitude of South Carolina football from previous coach Will Muschamp, who turned the job of playing football into a job. He said Beamer, who's much more, I guess, of an optimistic kind of a person when you hear him speak and on the videos, he does come across as very energetic in a positive way and not phony. Is that what you saw from South Carolina last year as far as like what they were instilling in the team? Because we're talking Arkansas football is instilling toughness, instilling, run the football. He's talking about something that's totally different and is more attitude.
First of all, anytime the new guy comes in, and typically a new guy is there because the previous regime failed. It's usually not the harmonious handoff. It's perfect. So there's issues and there's problems. So whatever the other guy did, the next guy, if he doesn't do that, is automatically praised. And it doesn't matter. Maybe the other guy was too soft, and the new guy is hard, and we're tough again. It really doesn't matter which way. It's just always got to be the opposite, even though a lot of times that's not the answer. I didn't see anything in South Carolina a year ago that tells me anything about their future and gives me some kind of hope they're about to make some kind of ascension. I got to see more of this. I'm not part of that crowd.
It's interesting the way that you put about the previous coach and how you take it from there, and so much of it has to do with where the program is. Like an Urban Meyer to Ryan Day is a totally different situation than going from a Will Muschamp to Shane Beamer, and the same with going from Chad Morris to Sam Pittman. That first year for a head coach there's so much that goes into it. Of course, recruiting, establishing your recruiting network, where you're going to be finding your players from. Making sure you got the right coaching staff. But it's about connection to the players, making sure that they feel that you're on their side. I don't think players ever felt that at Arkansas under Chad Morris, but I feel like from the very start, they felt that way under Sam Pittman.
Sam Pittman is a combination of tough guy coach, but he has a warmth about him. And that's a tough combination. Those two personality traits don't really combine in one person. And I think that's what the players like. The tough guy stuff's got to be there because I think that has to be Arkansas's culture when they're at their best. But they want to do this for him. Maybe Muschamp, it feels too like you're in the military or something. And Pittman's just got a better way of selling things. Some of that's just your DNA.
It's interesting to think of the idea of somebody instilling toughness without being an asshole, really, to put it lightly in these cases, because I think sometimes we think that you got to be like that in order to instill some kind of toughness, and Pittman is anything but that. And this team does come across very tough. Early in the show, we posed the question, there's a big difference in meeting expectations in college basketball than in college football. Because in college basketball, it's all about where you get in the NCAA tournament, not a number of wins. In football, unless you're Georgia, unless you're Alabama, Ohio State, and you're gunning for a national championship. I mean, last year obviously was a disappointment for Alabama because they finished second in the nation and they're on a quote-unquote revenge tour. What is a number of wins for Arkansas that constitutes an acceptable third season, a successful year? 8 wins. They got 9 last year. We had somebody call in earlier, Bill, that said 11-1 with a loss to Alabama is unacceptable because he wants to end the losing streak. I said that's more hope than expectations. So what would be a step forward? Is it a number of wins? Is it who the wins came against? What do you think?
I think 9-3, and I know the fans don't want to hear that, and I think they're going to be a very good team. But that's tough, man. I mean, they're in the most rugged neighborhood in America, the SEC West. And you're not going to beat Alabama. And you're going to be 50-50 in several of those other games. And you don't get to win all those 50-50 games, usually. Usually you don't. So I think 9-3 would be, even though people are going to say, well, that's still 9 wins, I think that's a step forward because that's establishing a constant. And then I think from there you can try and build for that next one. Getting between... There's a misnomer out there. The difference between 9 and 12 is not something tiny. It's a roster. It's recruiting like Georgia does every year and Alabama does every year. And very few programs do that. You may get lucky or some random team and get 10 wins, but usually they don't sustain it. And this comes down to personnel. First of all, how you maximize your personnel and develop them, but finding them. And this next jump is harder than originally getting them.
Yeah. You see a lot of programs, Bill, that are able to catch lightning in a bottle for a year, and then they kind of just go back to being average, being to what we always thought they were. And that's Arkansas's goal, is to prove that what they did last year wasn't lightning in the bottle and that they're on a projection up. One team that may be happy to catch lightning in a bottle this year is LSU, especially with the first-time year coach with Brian Kelly. What were your thoughts about the news earlier this week with Miles Brendan not just being done with the LSU program, but being done with football in general?
Tough news because that kid wasn't going to play. And maybe he had a lottery's chance, and that's why he was in camp. And that's why, I remember, they talked him into coming back, Brian Kelly. Mm-hmm. But he was probably 4th on the depth chart. And he's running out of time. He's a pretty good passer. He can't stay healthy. And the future does not involve him. And so the choice is either hang around because I just want to be here or get on with my life. And neither decision is wrong, but that kid was never going to play. He can't play there.
Would he have played in Nebraska, where it was reported that he was going to transfer to?
No, he can't play for Nebraska. He's not as good as Casey Thompson. He's not close to Casey. And I'm not making Casey Thompson a first-team All-American, but he's a good quarterback. He's a relatively good quarterback, and no, he wouldn't have played there either.
Well, we were going back to staying with news from Monday, just because it's still. It's still a lot of talking season. What were your thoughts about the preseason AP poll? Who, in your mind, was overrated and who was the most underrated?
I'm a Notre Dame liker.
Oh, okay.
They're overrated. There's no way they should be number 5 in the AP poll or the coaches poll. I think they're a 9-3, 10-2 team in Marcus Freeman's first year. They've got to open up with Ohio State. They're a 2-touchdown underdog there. That game might not be even that close. Clemson comes in later. You get Southern Cal, which we think is going to be solidly improved under Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, and it's some tough ACC road games. So I would, if they were ranked in the top 10 or 12, I would be agreeable to that. I would not have them anywhere close to the top 5.
I want to ask you about Oklahoma State for a quick moment here, and not about their team this year. I saw Mike Gundy. He's always good for a quote. He said, Texas and Oklahoma, quote, took the money and ran, unquote. Now, this doesn't answer the question as to if Oklahoma State was given that same offer to jump to the SEC, where they would have also made the same money. I see them doing the same thing. They just didn't get the invite. So when I hear schools in that league say they took the money and run, I think those schools would have done the very same thing had they been given the chance.
I'll give you an example. 2010, Texas and Oklahoma. We spent most of the summer talking about this. We're on the verge of going west. A&M and Oklahoma State were going with them. 100%. No debating it. No going back and reversing history. They were gone. So they already had a chance to take the money. We're prepared to take the money, but you can't go unless they get Oklahoma and Texas first. So I like Gundy, but that's hypocritical for sure.
Yeah, he's pointing out, look, you're maybe not going to be able to schedule a Bedlam game until 2036 because of how far they're scheduled out. And maybe that's one thing, certainly the rivalry gets lost in this circumstance. Maybe not in basketball, maybe not in baseball, but it's all about football with those two programs. Maybe that's more, what you're losing in this than anything else. Because, the Big 12 is bringing in schools that, quite honestly, in some cases have had near the same level of success in some cases.
Right.
Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, UCF. These are programs that have been near the top of the polls at times.
They have been difficult teams, very good teams. And Cincinnati's probably the most balanced because they play offense and defense. UCF was high-powered offensively. Houston's always been high-powered offensively now with Dana Holgorsen. BYU's relatively balanced, but you think about, throwing the ball a lot with BYU. But, yeah, and here's the other thing about what's missing. Gundy, as much as I like him, doesn't win Bedlam. He won it last year. He won it, I believe, in 2011. His record in Bedlam is like you're a baseball guy hitting 100. Mm-hmm. It's not very good.
Yeah, 100 gets you fired or gets you released or you lose your scholarship from that point, your 2/3 scholarship or whatever.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.